Legends of Tomorrow Season 3, Episode 1, Aruba-Con. This is definitely a good episode to kick off the season. It was also a fairly dark opening. It was like, it wasn't, I guess I shouldn't say dark. It was definitely sad though, to see the characters. It was almost depressing. It was like, alright, it's super crazy. Rip has left the team. He leaves Sarah in charge. They get back to modern day. It's like, oh man, there are dinosaurs and this is just insane. What are we going to do? So they walk around for a little bit and then these like white cubes just start popping up. All the dinosaurs disappear. Here comes Rip Hunter. Apparently 5 years older. You know, he left 15 minutes ago. Boom. Time travel. It's like that. He comes in 5 years later. He's dropped the duster. He's dropped the facial hair. He's changed the hair in general. And he's like, alright, you know, we killed a bunch of people that were, you know, screwing up time. I totally replaced them. Time Bureau. We're a bunch of people in suits. We Men in Black everybody. Cool white cubes that, you know, send everything back to where they belong. You guys are useless. See ya. And that was the opening. And that was like the beginning of this season. I was like, well, that's an interesting way to start off the third season of the show. And we get a bit of a time skip, and everyone is pretty much just sad. Like, the only two people that were actually okay were Mick and Stein. Stein was into, you know, finding out that he was grandfather. And Mick, you know, he just does whatever. He went to Aruba. So other than that, everybody was sad. Jefferson was like, you know, I kind of hate school, so I quit. Everything felt useless after being a time-traveling superhero. Sarah's working at basically Bed Bath & Beyond. She's dreaming about, you know, killing her boss. Ray, it was like the craziest thing. I'm like, this dude is Ray Palmer, but they went through a lot of weird stuff. People thought he was dead, and then he came back, and it's just so crazy. But I'm like, this is Ray Palmer. He should not have to work for like a mobile, you know, an app company. And it was just so crazy. I was like, this dude is Ray Palmer. He made a shrinking suit and lived. So it was just nuts. But they reference, you know, it's like, you know, yeah, you used to be Ray Palmer, but once you give your company to a woman who, you know, burns into the ground, which was Felicity, you know, that's kind of it. And I'm like, that sort of makes sense because business is really dumb like that. It's like, you know, you have a big screw up and you're just done forever, even if you literally made shrinking technology, but, you know, who cares? So he's miserable. I can't even think of the dude's name. All I can think of is Steel. I can only think of his superhero name. I want to say his name was Nick. I'm pretty sure it's Nick, but I'm just gonna say Steel because I know that's accurate. So we see him, and he seemed like he was doing okay. He's fighting and stuff, and then we actually see Wally come in and beat up the other villains, and he was like, you know, wanted you to save someone for me. He's like, no big deal. And so, you know, Wally takes off and he's doing his thing, and then he ends up going to meet this woman who is not Amaya because Amaya and him broke up because she went back in time. And I was just like, that sucks. That really freaking sucks. I am super curious because the only thing I really knew going into this season was that apparently, I don't know what their deal is, but they like love having 100 million people play Vixen. So we are supposed to get another character that is Vixen. It's supposed to be Amara, who is the Vixen of the current animated show that you can watch online. It's supposed to be her daughter, I believe. So we're supposed to get a new Vixen. I don't know what that means. I don't know if there's going to be crossover. I was thinking about that during the last season. I was like, I don't know if that's how these characters are going to interact or what this means. But going into it, I know we're supposed to have a third actress playing another version of Vixen. So it's not someone taking over. Once again, it is another version of Vixen from a totally different time period. And this time is going to be the future. So I was like, I don't know what this means, but Amaya's back in time. We do get a glimpse of her at the end. They kind of made it seem like she was almost being controlled by the spirits within the actual amulet. I don't know if that was meant to be the case, but I think it was the fact that she knew what was supposed to happen. She is going to ultimately end up becoming, oh crap, what was it? Anachronism, or whatever they called it. A mechanism, as Roy said, which was a hilarious scene. Because I was like, that took it right back to just, like, that was one of the scenes where I was like, that's just right into the flow of the rest of the series, where he's done that before, and they'll say things, and he'll just say, like, a random word is like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, but, you know, it was definitely an interesting way to end the episode off, and I was like, I feel like with her knowing what's supposed to happen, which is she's supposed to die, and, you know, the village is supposed to be taken over and stuff like that, I don't think she wants that to happen. Not in the way it's supposed to, at least. So I'm just very curious how that's going to play out. We also get a hint at the end of the episode, which is the only reason the team is allowed to be together. Because I'm like, I know technically they rescued the people, but they screwed up you know, like the Time Bureau somehow missed Julius Caesar, which is probably in relation to whoever this Malice character is. But sure, they missed it, and the team went in and was like, okay, well, we'll get Julius Caesar. But they definitely screwed up big time. They screwed up big time, and then of course they go in and they save everybody. And I was like, why in the world is Rip allowing them to, you know, jump around time? Like, even though they said, it was like, you know, Sarah's like, you know, we'll probably jump around time anyway, even if you don't allow it, or you know, try to deny us. But I was like, I still don't think this is the smartest idea, as much as I want the show to actually exist, because it couldn't if they weren't, you know, the Legends of Tomorrow. I was like, this still just doesn't make a lot of sense. And then he ends up having a conversation with, you know, the angry woman who's like, I guess his second in command. It's hard to say. And he's like, you know, maybe what we need is for the Legends to kind of do what they do best, which is be the chainsaw. So it's really just like, well, things are coming and we don't know how bad it's really going to be. Somehow they don't have some way to confront it, because, you know, there's going to be some random explanation that he can exist outside of time. Because I'm like, if they know this character is coming, then they should have literally, as time travelers, an unlimited amount of time in order to kind of solve that whole situation. So that should be interesting, how they explain why they don't already have a solution to, you know, beat this main villain. But Malice, you know, coming in to take things out. I know the name. I'm just not super familiar with the character. I've definitely heard that name before, though. But I am looking forward to this season. I think this was definitely a good first episode. The Caesar stuff was definitely good. Led to some funny jokes, for sure. The mechanisms thing was definitely a great part. But them dealing with Caesar was definitely kind of cool. I really enjoyed that, and them having the fight sequence with Sarah where she just beats the crap out of him, and she kind of gets the inspiration to, you know, take him back to Rome herself, or you have the team do it instead of going to the Time Bureau, because she talks with him. And I was like, oh, this is a bit of a dangerous moment, but, you know, of course it led to the rest of the episode. Otherwise it would have just been all said and done. So I thought it was pretty interesting. Just random stupid issues. I mean, I couldn't believe that Julius Caesar, like, it wasn't like a coin. He pocketed a book off of this dude. Like, he just closed the book, took a picture, and forgot he had a book in his hand, and he just got robbed by Julius Caesar, and they screwed up time again. So, of course, they go through, they have their little fight sequence, the Time Bureau shows up, they get caught in a trap, the Legends have to go in and rescue them, and it was pretty decent. You know, the characters fighting back and forth. Sarah actually ends up teaming up for a quick second with the woman. They have, you know, a cool little fight sequence where they're beating people up, and the part where Sarah's like holding onto the chains, and they do, like, you know, the sort of spin around thing, which was really interesting, because during that last kick she was like a million miles away. It was super easy to see that there was zero contact, but still cool fight sequence for sure. And I love the way it ended, where the one was like, you know, now that I've seen you guys in action, you are far worse than I ever imagined. And I was like, wow, she just hates them. It was like she was created to hate them just right from the start. So I'm sure we'll get to see a lot more of her. I'm sure they said her name as well, but I suck with names, so until I hear it a couple more times, I'm just not going to remember. But definitely a good first episode. I like the action to it. Definitely enjoyed the comedy. I like, you know, the story elements that they had. Jax and Professor Stein, I thought that was actually really cool, where, you know, Stein was like, well, I didn't really want to do this, but I realized I literally drugged you and forced you into this life, and now you love it. And what type of person would I be to have forced you into this life and then, you know, basically forced you to, you know, not live it? So I thought that was interesting. I don't know where they're going with their story, because at some point Stein does have to be that grandfather that he wants to be. And of course, they're time travelers. They can, you know, they can go right back to whatever time they want to. Well, technically they shouldn't do that because of them going through time, and they should kind of allow time to naturally progress. But I'm just curious, because that's all I was thinking of this whole episode. It was like, oh, he now has a daughter who's pregnant. He has a daughter, which was, you know, a big deal last season. So there was a lot to it where I was just like, are they going for another transition? Like, are we going to have Jax transitioning into becoming Firestorm with a new person, or is it just going to be them? Because I feel like there's a change coming for their characters, just with the way things kind of kicked off in this episode. Even though ultimately it did come down to, I forced you into this life, so it would be crappy of me to not, you know, let you continue to live it. But I just felt like everything that they did was like, he has a good reason to stay behind. He has a good reason to stay as well. But the one thing he can't just choose is the fact that he is the oldest character, out of the entire team, and at some point that is going to catch up with him, even if he is not the physical manifestation of Firestorm, and it's Jax because he's younger. There's still some element to that where it's like at some point this is going to have an effect. I don't know if they're going to do that. I mean, we are technically only in season 3, but it was just like an odd feeling that I had. I was just like, I just don't know. Like, it's just so weird to be like, I don't know. You can have another person. I mean, that's what they do in the comics. There's different people all the time. So it just makes me wonder, like, if we're, getting closer to that transition, which I'm sure we are at some point. For sure, they would literally have to do it just through like normal life stuff. They would literally have to do it because he would just be older and probably wouldn't want to be Firestorm anymore. So it just makes me wonder how close we are to that point, and if they're just naturally writing that in just as a change for the characters. Don't know if it's too early because it is only season 3. Stein, of course, existed for quite a while before Legends actually started anyway. So it's like this that extra added time when he was on Flash and stuff like that too. So it does make me wonder if that's any relevant content that'll come up later, or if it was just for this first episode. But it definitely made me think about it, like, oh, what is the future of Firestorm? Because you have to have 2 people to do it, and at some point those people can be swapped in and out. It's already happened because one character died, so it can happen again because one character just chooses to leave and kind of live a normal life again. So very curious if that'll even remotely be a part of it. It just was something that I thought of. I never thought of it before, but definitely occurred to me. It was like, oh, he's going to be a grandfather now. He just became a father, really, and now he's just finding out that he's about to become a grandfather as well. So it was like, man, that's a lot to just leave behind, even if it is for your other family. That's still a lot to leave behind, so it does make me wonder. But ultimately, enjoyed this episode. I like the little cameo of Wally in this, especially because of my whole issue with the Flash. I hadn't gotten to see it yet, so I was like, oh, that was like my first time seeing a speedster, ever since the season went off. But definitely a cool first episode. Excited to see who this villain is going to end up being. No physical representation so far, and then whatever's going on with Amaya at the end. Like I said, it seemed kind of evil. She was protecting her village, but we'd never seen her like with the glowing eyes and stuff. And I was like, that's interesting. Not for that long where she has like a master. She's like a master with the amulet now, where she was just summoning like all the spirits, and she didn't even have to do anything. It was literally the spirits themselves actually fighting off the people, and also like tearing the dude apart, because she was like kind of smiling, and that was where it was like kind of evil with the glowing eyes. And she's smiling, and the guy's like, like, no, don't, and he's getting like torn apart. So I was like, definitely seems like an evil sort of close-up shot for the end of the episode. But either way, I'm looking forward to this season. Of course, we'll love to know what you guys thought about the premiere, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And of course, I would love to know your theories for this season, what you guys want to see in general. We have a couple of characters coming in. Well, there's at least one character I know for sure, a new hero character. I'm not too familiar with them. I don't even remember the name. I just heard it because of the whole, the big crossover that we're having for this year. So I know we have at least one person coming in, and I thought that's who was being introduced when like the first dinosaur disappeared, when they had like the portal boxes come up, which is a great design. I thought that looked really cool. It's like very clean cut, just like a cube opens up, and then it's just like the aura around it. I thought it was a great design. But I know we have one hero character coming in. Who knows what's going to happen with Amaya, if they're going to keep her as a hero or make her a villain. But that would also explain the new Vixen thing, which I guess I know 2 heroes that are coming in then. But I'm definitely curious how things are going to play out. It's hard to say with the whole Vixen element, especially with what we saw at the end of this, because I was like, man, they just keep throwing in a bunch of new Vixen characters, which is cool, but I would assume it was like a one-at-a-time thing with the group, and it certainly seems like it's going to be the case. But it could also be the case because Amaya possibly turns evil if the amulet corrupts you, which they haven't done so far, but that kind of seems like what they were pseudo-hinting at least. So, I don't know, that's like the one theory I got. Maybe she'll be evil, maybe she won't. Not a great theory because I have like no clear path that I'm going down, but should be an interesting season. So like I said, would love to know what you guys thought about this episode. And of course, want to know what your theories are for the rest of the season. And just what you guys want to see, what characters, heroes or villains that you guys want to see in this season of Legends. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.